Hey, what's going on, guys? Coming at you with an updated deck profile that surprisingly we actually haven't covered in a few months, and that deck profile is of Trickstars. So really, ever since the new year, I haven't really done much with this deck. I think I just kind of like wore myself out playing this deck. I just fell so much in love with the artwork of this deck, the playstyle of this deck, and obviously it's the deck that gave me the most success. You know, giving me my first ever regional top at Nationals invite. So after a while, I just kind of got bored with it and wanted to try out some different decks. Plus, in February, we did get the new Gem Knight link, and that gave me a new deck to obsess over. So after all that time of kind of being on the back burner, we have brought Trickstars back just to show off the modern version of the deck, or at least my version. I've looked at a lot of different of the topping builds over the last couple months and kind of put a lot of the different ideas and theories together into kind of a blended build of all those different ideas and strategies. So without any further ado, we'll go ahead and get started with the profile. So Trickstar lineup here is pretty standard. We of course have the triple Candina, your Stratos of the deck, the triple Lycris, and then just the one Lily Bell. I really liked the idea of testing out two at locals, but it's a card you never really want to draw, and the second one would always get sided out, so I think one is the right number because you just don't want to draw it. For hand traps, we got a bit of a different lineup here for hand traps. So we of course have the free Jewel and Lockbird, the best hand trap for Trickstars. Really good against True Draco if they don't have the Amano Awato up, and it does that degenerate reincarnation draw and lock hand loop, which is just disgusting. And then for other hand traps, we have just the two Ash Blossom and the two Ghost Ogre. I do own 3 copies of each of these, but they're kind of cards that kind of vary in impact depending on the matchup in this meta right now. So I don't really want to clog with multiples of either of these hand traps. And I just in general don't want to clog with too many hand traps. That was one of the problems with the deck previously. Back when I did play it, when I played anywhere from like 9 to 12 or 13 hand traps in the main, I just would end up seeing too many of them, and I wouldn't really be able to do anything after I stunned my opponent's plays. So I feel like 7, at least for this kind of beta build in this format, is the right number. And that's actually it for the monsters. It's actually only 14 monsters. The lowest monster count I've done for Trickstars ever since my first version, which was just focused solely on the burn strategy of the deck. For spells, we have, of course, the free Light Stage and the free Terraforming, pretty standard there. The free Scapegoat, your main win condition of the deck, unfortunately not searchable. And again, another one of those cards is just really dumb, and it's probably going to get hit at some point because of just how good it is at leveraging into big link plays. The two Paw Desires. Something I noticed with some of the more recent Trickstar topping deck profiles is there was a couple guys that were playing a lot more traps in the main, and instead of doing like 2 Desires or 3 Desires, they were doing like 1 Desires and 1 or 2 Paw Dualities. And the concept of it's kind of interesting because on your first turn you really don't special summon unless you're swapping out your Candina for Lycris, but their theory behind it was that you don't really even need to do that. You can just wait until your opponent's turn, and a duality can just get you a key card. I get the idea behind it, but I just don't really like the idea of dead drawing duality mid to late game in a deck like this that does special summon a lot after turn 1. So that's why I personally just kept it at the 2 Desires. But you wouldn't really be wrong if you wanted to test out duality in this deck, because as I said, the first turn you really don't special summon at all for the most part. For 1-0s, we had the 1 Monster Reborn and the 1 Raigeki. Monster Reborn is a card I don't really see that much in Trickstar builds. I don't really see why, because especially in this build, which you'll see, we have the Raigeki and then we have like triple Torrential in the trap lineup. If you're able to get over a big board of monsters, just being able to steal a big monster off of Monster Reborn can really be a game changer and sometimes a game ender. And of course, you can get back, your engine cards like Candina, Lycris. You can get back your own links as well after you do like, Scapegoat shenanigans. So Monster Reborn overall, I think it's just too sacky of a card to at least not have in the main. It can be an easy side out card if you need more room, the side in cards. But Monster Reborn just, along with Raigeki, is just one of those cards that's really sacky and can potentially shift games around. So that's a spell lineup. I believe it's 13 spells. For traps, we of course have the triple Reincarnation, pretty standard there. Something I'm trying out in the main is the free Heavy Storm Duster. So I was previously playing anywhere from 2 to 3 Cosmic Cyclones, but it's just kind of an iffy card right now. And Heavy Storm Duster, the theory behind it is that with how long the deck has been out and just people being used to how Trickstars play. If you go first against them, they're going to set as many cards as they can before they actually proceed with any plays. So Heavy Storm Duster is a card that can take advantage of that. If they set some of their power spells and traps, you can just snipe them away with Duster. And Duster is just generally, I mean, if you can get it off, a better card than Cosmic Cyclone. I do still side to Cyclones because there are some matchups where Cyclone is a bit better, but this against a full Pendulum Scale against Pendulum Editions can be a blowout if you time it right. So that's why I personally like the Duster in the main. Next, we are playing the triple Solemn Strike. Still a good card. Still just negates effects, negates special summons. Still a good card. The free Torrential Tribute. As I mentioned, I play this in the main. Unless you're you have a full board of like Scapegoat and Link monsters, you're really not losing much off of when you torrential the board. And if you time it right, you can really just accomplish a huge blowout against your opponent's board, especially against like Pendulum Magicians. And then you have your Reincarnation engraved that could potentially recover back your Lycoris or your Candina to then just continue on with your normal Trickstar play. So Torrential at 3, I think is a really good card in the main. And then finally the one Solemn Judgment, which is generally a god card. So that's the 40-card main deck. As I kind of alluded to, the ratios here are kind of interesting. It's like 14 monsters, 13 spells, and 13 traps. I think it's the most balance I've had ratio-wise in the main deck between monsters, spells, and traps in a long time. So, that's kind of interesting how that worked out. For the extra deck, we of course have the one Holy Angel. It's just a staple for Trickstars. I don't really like the other Trickstar link that we got a few months ago. But yeah, Holy Angel, I think, is always going to be a staple in this deck. The 2 Link Spider, I unfortunately don't own a Link Karibo, but if I did, I definitely would be playing a Link Karibo in here. But yeah, the Link Spider to get rid of your Scapegoat tokens. And then the 2 Mrs. Radiant, also to get rid of your Scapegoat tokens. You could easily cut it down to 1 if you have Link Karibo or Skull Dread and you want to make room for those. The one Akashic Magician, good in general because your Trickstars are, of course, the same type and attribute. And it's really good with your side deck Kaijus as well to be able to bounce it back after you Kaiju an opponent's monster. Then we have the one Ib, mostly here for the Ib and Girsu combo with Scapegoat. The one Proxy Dragon potentially can be a decent protection card, but it's mostly here to bridge to your higher Link plays. The one Underclock Taker, another decent Link too. You won't really use it much with Scapegoat, but if you need to get over a bigger monster, you just need an extra bit of damage per game. Underclock Taker could be pretty clutch for that. The one Deco Talker, just generally a good Link 3. The one in Gear Suit, again, generally a good Link 3, and it's really good with Ib, Link to it so that you get to draw a card along with outing an opponent's card as well. For Link 4s, we have the one Borreload Dragon, just a really good card. The one Firewall for the Firewall loops. And then finally the one Topologic. It's a really good card if you're able to combo it off with Lycoris in hand or Reincarnation Engraved. But you could easily take this out for Skull Dread if you do own one. I unfortunately don't at the current moment. And then for the final extra deck card, we have the one Phantom Knight Breaksword. You could potentially play like a Tornado Dragon or a Grand Pulse or like even a Black Rose since you play the level 3 tuners. But I really just decided to go with the Phantom Knight Breaksword. There's anywhere from like 2 to 5 cards that you can kind of flip back and forth on in the extra deck. And another thing you could do is you could play a couple Cherries targets. You could play Cherries like Electromite and Mechaba, ABC Dragon Buster, things like that. But I just personally have the Breaksword and the other links. That's it for the extra. For the side, we have the 2 Artifact Lancia here for the Infernoid, ABC, and the Invoked matchup. Then we do side the 3rd of each hand trap, the 3rd Ash Blossom, and the 3rd Ghost Ogre. There's just some matchups where Ghost Ogre is better, some matchups where Ash Blossom is better. So I figured since I had a little bit of space in the side deck to just kind of side the 3rd of each in case I want to actually put in a 3rd of either one. Then we just played the 2 Kaijus, the 1 Gameciel and the 1 Commungus. I typically play the 3 Kaijus and the 1 Slumber, but in my personal opinion, if you do have any copies of Evenly Matched, I think it's just better to play like as many copies of Evenly Matched as you can than playing the full Kaiju package, in my opinion, because Evenly Matched is just more of a catch-all compared to the Kaijus. Next, the 2 Call by the Grave, just generally a pretty good card going first. This can also protect your Reincarnation Draw Lock combo, which is kind of dumb. The 2 Cosmic Cyclone, just here for more just back row hate. If I owned 2 more evenly matched, these would probably get taken out for 2 more evenly matched, because again, it just catches more cards than just the Cyclone does. Then we have the 1 Dark Hole just for an extra board wipe. The free D barrier, of course, we're going first against Pendulum Magicians, Invoked, APC, things like that. And then the 1 evenly matched that I do own, I pulled this at a local about a month ago and haven't really been able to sell or trade it since. I'm still looking to do so, but since I had the evenly matched, I figured I'd go ahead and put it in here. It's obviously a good card. If you own 3 of them, I would play 3 of them in the side. You could potentially even consider playing them in the main as well. It's just that good of a card, but for the price range, I really am not the biggest fan of it. I think you guys know that by now, because I think I owned like 2 other copies of this at one point and then sold them off, and then I pulled this one. So yeah, I've owned 3 evenly matched within my lifetime that I've pulled from packs, but I've just never really liked the card enough to be able to hold on to them, or I just liked money more than I like this card, to be honest. So that is it for this updated deck profile on my Trickstars. I do hope you guys enjoyed it. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time.